Tonight, a special look at the state of education in America. Good evening from Washington. I'm John Jessup. Well, if you're a college sports fan, you're probably familiar with the practice of redshirting. It's when coaches or parents keep players out of competition for a year while they hone their skills. And now, some parents are applying that concept to kindergarten, holding their kids back until they're more socially and emotionally mature. Tara Mergener explains the possibilities and the pitfalls of the growing trend.
Parents often ask themselves whether their kids are ready for kindergarten when it comes time to make that big transition. Well, experts agree it can be helpful to wait until 6 instead of 5 to get that extra year of growth. Opinions vary on the overall outcome.
That last extra year of preschool, he was still the kid that was rolling around to get laughs. He was a character. He was a clown.
No question, Sarah Goldstein says that then 5-year-old Kiernan was not ready to start kindergarten.
I don't know if it's because he was the firstborn, his own personality, perhaps even being a boy, I think sometimes.
The decision can be a tricky one. And Sarah, an editor for the parenting platform Motherly, isn't alone, joining a growing number of parents waiting to enroll their child in kindergarten, even though the traditional calendar shows it's time.
When he's 5, well, you don't exactly cheat, but you game the system.
It's become so well known over the last several decades,
wanting to give them the perceived advantage of being one of the oldest rather than youngest.
It has a name.
Have you heard about parents redshirting their children to give them an edge in academics?
20, 10, light 'em up.
Borrowed from college sports, redshirting means student athletes are on the team, but stay out of competition for a season to up their game.
Inaugural season of Conference USA.
In the case of kindergarten, it means the child gets another year to mature emotionally and academically.
But you may have that child that is that late birthday, younger, a little bit more timid, and they could benefit from being the older child that has more of that self-confidence.
According to the numbers, parents are more likely to delay their sons than daughters.
My daughter and, Jade, perhaps because she had an older brother who kind of showed her the way, perhaps because it's just who she is, she was born ready.
There's no evidence of an intelligence gap, but girls do develop those skills around organization, forward planning, etc., somewhat earlier than boys do.
More and more parents are deciding to wait an extra year.
Estimates on the number of students who are redshirted vary, with a recent survey showing it's doubled since 1980, from 10 to 20%. Still, the growing practice of redshirting can become controversial. If, say, the motivation is because parents hope it might give their child an academic, social, or athletic edge over their younger peers.
The amount of pressure developmentally that comes with that type of environment is not usually the healthiest for a child, and that can create other behavioral issues that parents may not be ready for. And many times I've seen kids burn out.
Though the numbers also show lower-income parents less likely to hold a child back from starting kindergarten due to the cost of preschool or daycare.
The setbacks on their education that come with COVID school closures and remote learning.
During the pandemic, COVID also caused many parents to delay the start of kindergarten, with enrollment dropping nationally by 16% in the 2020-2021 school year. No matter the reason, redshirting can also create challenges for teachers, now expected to accommodate a wider range of maturity and ability levels in class. Well, some studies indicate a small academic advantage, with redshirted kids more likely to attend college. Others show no significant differences between those who start kindergarten later and those who start on time. But experts agree a delay can be damaging for at-risk populations, such as children in low-income families or those with special needs. Though for many families, the extra cost of another year of daycare or preschool is too much of a financial burden. Some school districts, including New York City, have forbidden redshirting on equity grounds.
Second presentation starts at 6 o'clock.
Ultimately, parents who have the choice must make the call.
It's important to strike a balance here between wanting the best for our kids and not coddling them too much.
As for Kiernan, now 17 and college-bound, Sarah has no regrets.
He's incredibly well prepared at this point. We have one more year with him to, teach him how to truly do the laundry correctly. And just so that when he is out in the world, he's had that one extra year, I think, to really feel like he's got all the tools he needs.
Redshirting is not an option for all parents, especially when it comes to public schools. Most states require children attend at least half-day kindergarten in the school year after their 5th birthday, with some exceptions. Private schools can set their own rules. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Thank you, Tara. Recognize and react to responses that advance the fight to keep kids safe at school. Next on Faith Nation. Welcome back. A sad story here. As you all know, school shootings are an epidemic in the United States, leaving many parents demanding action. School security is actually now a $3 billion a year business, and much of that spent on high-tech equipment. But as CBN's national security correspondent Caitlin Burke reports, some experts say the money would be better spent on training staff and students to both recognize and respond to threats.
On April 20th, 1999, 2 students walked into Columbine High School and opened fire. In the 24 years since 13 students were killed here, there have been nearly 380 school shootings, exposing hundreds of children to gun violence and revealing an epidemic that's yet to find its cure.
Let's go! Metro Police!
In the aftermath of the Covenant school shooting in Nashville, children, parents, and officials once again find themselves struggling with how to keep schools safe.
The children of this country are demanding action. Our classrooms have become killing fields. Is that acceptable?
I don't think one piece of legislation solved this. We got to deal with mental illness.
School security has grown to a $3 billion industry, with investments in everything from video surveillance technology to bulletproof doors and electronic locks. And while technology is important, experts say it likely would not prevent the next attack.
When people are the problem, people are always going to be the solution.
Jimmy Graham is the CEO and founder of Able Shepherd, an elite active shooter training program in Denver, Colorado. Graham says it's people knowing exactly what to do in an emergency that saves lives.
So I'll walk into an institution and I'll say, can I talk to this lady right here? And I say, ma'am, what would you do if you heard gunshots? She says, I don't know. I said, well, that's where we need to start.
Drawing on his background as a Navy SEAL and involvement with the CIA's global response staff, Graham developed DEFEND. The acronym stands for Defense, Evacuate, Fortify, Emergency Medical Aid, Notify Others, and Dial 911. A strategy based on international safety protocols.
There's an unbelievably efficient model for protecting our diplomats overseas, but not our children. Right? So why is that? Because it's the same model. That model, what I've done is I've scaled it and said we don't need, some of this stuff is not applicable, but to bring that back home and place the principles, here's a defensive principle. To get to them, you have to go through me.
Able Shepherd also provides training for those likely to respond to active shooter situations, whether that be an individual, a security team, law enforcement, or even faculty. The training is reality-based, allowing those who go through it to experience live scenarios.
Gunshot, gun out, be ready, be ready, be ready. Pow! Pow! Tell him to stay down, tell him to go down.
Graham stresses that even with all the right tools, security plans won't work if school leaders don't maintain the proper environment.
The best way to describe it would be this. I get a whole faculty together and I say, whose job is it to protect this place? And everybody at the same time says, mine.
In 1999, as a first responder at Columbine, Deacon Ernie Martinez experienced the moment the country realized children weren't safe at school.
The big wake-up call was twofold, I think. Number one is their evil does exist without any reasons for it, right? And number two is it woke us up to, as not only a law enforcement community, but as a community as a whole, that everybody should participate.
Martinez, now retired after 40 years in law enforcement, is the director of deacons for the Archdiocese of Denver. Among his roles, helping schools in the Archdiocese come up with security plans.
The important thing is collaboration, leveraging assets, partnering with local law enforcement, because we have parishes and churches and schools all across northern Colorado, and everybody is in their own different financial statuses, right? So you need to partner with your local law enforcement. You need to partner with local schools, whether they're public schools or not.
It's common sense steps like training and collaboration that experts believe provide schools the best chance at stopping an active shooter, since preventing them entirely is highly unlikely.
We're unique, right? What does America have that other countries don't have? Two things. One, a Second Amendment, and two, more guns than people. By most accounts, there's over 450 million guns for just over 300 million people.
Back in 2016, research from Johns Hopkins University found even the highest priced technology did nothing to help stop mass shootings. Researchers writing, quote, "There is no universal school safety solution. No one technology will solve all school safety and security issues. The sheer number of schools and school districts across the country, with different geography, funding, building construction and layout, demographics, and priorities, make each one different."
What does school safety look like in our country? It looks as bad as Uvalde and as good as Tennessee, and everything in the middle.
Former D.C. Homeland Security Chief Donnell Harvin says it's important that people keep talking about school security, even after the news cycle moves on.
Many people are apathetic and have given up, and many people are desensitized. And we can't allow that apathy and that kind of, mindset to take hold of the fact that the next shooter is planning and there's kids in that classroom.
When it comes to school security, parents can also make a difference. The key is communication. Ask your child's school what they're doing, what they're not, and then don't stop asking until you get the right answer. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Denver, Colorado.
Thank you, Caitlin. Kingdom race theology. Coming up, a biblical response to critical race theory, not just for kids in the classroom, but for all Christians in every community. Well, when kids head back to school in the fall, some will be learning critical race theory. 5 states have passed laws, though, banning CRT, and more are trying. One Christian pastor tackled the controversial theory on the church pulpit. I sat with Pastor Tony Evans and spoke with him about his thoughts on CRT and why he's challenging Christians to respond with a kingdom perspective.
CRT is racist. It is abusive. It discriminates against one's color.
At school board meetings,
do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
Congressional hearings, and across the airwaves.
Does critical race theory conflict with the gospel?
Teaching slavery and critical race theory, those aren't the same things, are they?
It's become a source of controversy and confusion.
Don't nobody know what critical race theory means before a year and a half ago. They ain't critical, they ain't run a race, and they ain't got no theory.
Into a dwelling place of God.
Pastor and author Tony Evans believes it could also be part of God's divine plan.
He may have allowed this for the purpose of a wake-up call.
In the pulpit, and now a newly updated book, Evans is on a campaign to redeem the discourse around race, wading into the crosscurrents of CRT with the Bible and a real-world example of what he says the theory attempts to expose. What does a golf course have to do with critical race theory? Well, on the surface, it might not be that obvious, but dive a little deeper into history, and the connection becomes a little clearer.
Well, the golf course is buttressed against our church property.
After years of trying, Evans's church, Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, bought the nearby Golf Club of Dallas in 2020. Now under renovation, the 155-acre, 18-hole course is open to all.
When we first moved to this community, the golf course, which comes up against the precipice of our church facilities, was segregated. African Americans were not allowed to play on it. The first African American that was allowed to play was in 1994.
As times changed, so did the country club's rules, which did not expressly deny blacks. Instead, a revised policy of referral by a current member and then approval by 2/3 of the entire club made membership elusive.
So even if somebody would have invited me, I couldn't become a member, even if that individual who invited me wasn't a racist, because the structure of how the golf course operated.
That, Evans explains, is what critical race theory initially was designed to address. Racism not on the personal level, but within systems. It puts the lens on laws that have changed for the good, while focusing on the legacy of unjust systems that evade the goal of equality. Today, the CRT framework has been attached to gender and other controversial issues, driving a wedge between parents and teachers, and even within the walls of the church. The SBC began losing prominent black pastors after the Southern Baptists proposed a resolution against CRT. Evans speaks harshly about the division.
Now here's the deal. If you're spending more time discussing CRT than you are KRT, that is this, then you've been tricked by the world.
Focusing on the bigger picture, he's calling on Christians to respond to their call of biblical unity, offering an alternative framework he's coined KRT.
KRT is a kingdom race theology. Rather than a theory, we wanted to deal with a theology because we wanted to talk about what God has to say.
Evans describes KRT as the visible, comprehensive rule of God over every area of life, which prioritizes race and racism as kingdom issues rather than societal or cultural problems. But it doesn't stop there. It also emphasizes the goal of reconciliation.
Reconciliation demands that we look toward where God wants us to go while not ignoring where we've come from. And that means we can teach honest history. We can teach some of the inequities that have gone on. Kids need to know about the pain of the past on either side of the tracks that you happen to be on. But we can't stop with that conversation because the whole cross is about reconciliation, 2 Corinthians chapter 5.
He says when Christians pursue the path of reconciliation, it offers the world a true picture of unity and opens the door for spiritual renewal.
Biblical unity is simply oneness of purpose, not sameness of persons. And so when we can do that and have a plan to do that and do it together, to the degree of our unity will be the degree to which God shows up and transforms our environment.
While some think his message goes too far, others complain not far enough. Meanwhile, Evans says he's focused on promoting the kingdom agenda, helping both churches and their surrounding communities. Back at the golf course, others are taking notice, like Pettis Norman, football legend and one of the club's first black members. In a statement to CBN News, he thanked Dr. Evans for investing in the community and the city and said the church purchase shines a spotlight on unity. Evans warns if Christians don't respond biblically to today's discord, it's not just the world who suffers, but the church.
God will only bless us to the degree of our unity. So if we keep this unity, we're actually keeping God away. Because John 17, verses 23 to 24, he says, perfect them in unity so they can see my glory. So we will not see him show up if we allow the division in the culture to remain a division in the kingdom of God through his church.
And the renovations and repairs at the Oak Creek Golf Course are bigger than real estate or righting a wrong, according to Pastor Evans. They reflect his vision of the kingdom agenda, which is described as the purpose of the church's ministry, reflecting the glory of God and being a benefit to the community to illustrate the difference Christians can make, not by focusing on societal or political issues, but by allowing the kingdom agenda's biblical principles to prevail. Well, still ahead, good, clean fun. The unique day job of a middle school chess coach. Next. Finally tonight, in the popular Netflix show The Queen's Gambit, a janitor teaches a young prodigy the game of chess. And in real life, a similar storyline is playing out in the state of Maine. Throughout the week, David Bishop's primary role is school custodian. But on the weekends, he spends his time mentoring the next generation of great chess minds.
I watched The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, and I thought it was really cool how Mr. Bishop had a relationship, he was very similar to the janitor who taught that girl to play. That's one similarity, but one difference is that he teaches many people, and I thought that was cool because we're a team, so we have multiple people, so we can compete in tournaments. It's not just individuals.
I have 5 kids now that beat me on a regular basis, and at least 1 out of 4 times I can take a game. But it's a good feeling to see them stronger.
Wow, that's great teaching there. Bishop's tutelage seems to be paying off. Both the elementary and middle school teams he coaches won Maine's state chess tournament. The middle school team then went on to come in 8th out of 52 teams at nationals. Congratulations to him and all his students. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.